After laying low for a good month or so, iisu has made a triumphant return with their 0.0.6 alpha, which is just released. So if you're in the Ko-Fi, you'll have access to the VIP Discord where you can download this. So let's see what's new in this version of iisu. For regular viewers of my channel, you'll probably notice that my background looks a little bit different to how it normally does. It doesn't have the Thor logo. Simple reason being, I'm not on the Thor today. I'm actually on the AYN Odin 3. So most of the updates in this version of iisu are covering the single screen performance. So if you're on the Odin or a Retroid or an Android-based single screen device, this update is the one for you if you're eagerly anticipating iisu. So I've downloaded the alpha, and what we'll do a full setup with some of the new features because the onboarding process has changed a little bit. So we'll go to download, we'll install iisu, we'll open it up. So a lot of this looks quite similar. So the home layout, it will just be standard because I'm on the single screen device. On the Thor, you'll get the choice between the dual screen mode and the standard mode. It just determines which screen is on which screen. So I'm going to leave it, we'll change it over to the light mode actually. So we can now choose our asset storage. So this is handy if you've got an SD card. So when I set this up on my Thor, anytime I test a new front end, I always do a clean install just to see it in from scratch, essentially. So I have an SD card in my Thor, and it automatically detected it and given me the option here. I don't have an SD card in my Odin, so it hasn't. So I'm just going to use the default. Or you can choose a custom folder if you want to take it out of the Android media folder. For now, I'm just going to leave it at the default. Here we are, one of our first big features, and an absolutely massive feature if you ask me. So this, like a lot of front ends, is our link to our ESDE root folder. So this is available in RetroCry, Cocoon have recently added it. I believe there's probably some others that have started looking that way to try and steal some people over from ESDE. You haven't won me over yet, guys, but give it some time, maybe you will. But features like this will help. So what we can do is we can link our ESDE folder. So I'm going to find it. Mine's there. I'm going to use that folder and allow it. So what this will do is if you've scraped your ROMs using ESDE, all your downloaded data and your box arts and things like that, rather than make brand new copies of them to use in iisu, it's just going to point at that folder and link them, just to save you having to scrape all your games again. Next, we're going to choose our ROMs folder. So there we go. Allow that. Give that a moment. So for every game I have, it will detect the relevant folder. There we go. We've got FB Neo, which is my arcade games. We've got some Game Boy ones there. So I'll leave them as is. So also Retro Achievements, I believe. It says there's been some improvements to how it handles Retro Achievements. I'm not actually sure of what they are because when I was testing it before, they seemed to work fine. There was a couple of little links, but in terms of, I believe it's more probably the back end hashing stuff that's a little bit different. So I'm just going to quickly log in to my Retro Achievements account, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, there we are. So I've logged into my Retro Achievements account. The next screen is just to do with which shortcuts we want on our home screen. So I'm going to pick, what shall I have on the home? We'll have Chrome. We'll have EmuReady Lite. This is entirely up to you which ones you have. Obtainium's a good one. Pixel Guide. Well, I have Pixel Guide installed, but it doesn't really work as well on a single screen because the novelty is you have it on your other screen. Plexamp for my TV watching, my podcasts, and then settings and Solid Explorer. I'll just pick those for now. So what it's going to do is it's going to start doing some onboarding tasks. So it's running already. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit running background and I'm just going to give it access to the notifications. So as you can see there, it's absolutely flying through these. It feels quicker, but I don't know if that's down to the fact that because I'm on the Odin and it has the Snapdragon Elite in there, I don't know if that's related to the processor or it's just a bit of bias because it's been a while. So for some reason, my screen has frozen on this. So there we go. So it's looping through all the stuff now, generating those hashes, and we can see where it's up to. It does seem to be flying through them, so we're nearly halfway, and it's been about 30 seconds. So we can run that in the background. I'm just going to let that finish off because it's pretty much nearly done. So this onboarding process, with the exception of the dual screen selection or the dual screen mode selection, is the exact same for the AY and Thor. So if you're watching this and you want to see the Thor side, I'll show you the Thor side once I've covered the single screen stuff because that's the biggest update. Most of the other parts of the update are more to do with it. There's been some nice little kind of animation changes, some UI changes. There is one other big feature I want to cover, which doesn't really affect me, but I know that when iisu first had its presentation, which was when was that? Like towards the end of last year, so it's been a few months. There was a lot of people clamoring for integration with a specific app. A specific app, which if you've been following my channel, you're probably aware, not the biggest fan of. So there's your clue. We'll cover it later. So now it's going to preload some Retro Achievements data. This is for some hashing, so it'll ping the Retro Achievements database, get the hashes for the database there, and then compare it against the hashes we've got for our games that we have locally. If it finds any matches, it'll add a little icon. So there we go. Just a little overview of what we're up to. Obviously, for the iisu DS option, that's inactive because I can't on the noding. Everything else is just detailed what we've covered. So there we are. So this is the new single screen mode. So the most probably obvious change is we now have these square borders around our apps. This looks good for the game folders. Doesn't look so good for the apps. I believe you can change this, but I believe it's quite manual at present. And I've not been able to find where it's hidden. Is it card effects? So you have the outline, which does fix it, but I believe that also removes it from everything. But I quite like it on some of the games, so I believe there's probably a way to do it, but I haven't found it yet. So I've just enabled them again. So if we look at else we've got on our screen, so in the top left, where you see 0 online, that's to do with our feature. If you've not already worked it out, the feature is Discord integration. So I'll cover that on my Thor because I'm logged into Discord on my Thor already. And if you look on the top right, the right trigger doesn't actually do anything, but you can see I'm logged into RetroAchievements. That's my RetroAchievements profile. And you can see that there's something spinning, which is our onboarding task, which is still going on. That'll take a little bit longer. So whilst that's doing, I'll cover this. Now for navigation, it's not immediately obvious. So if you try and move to the edge or move down or press your triggers, nothing really happens. So the way to navigate on a single screen device is by using your shoulder buttons, and that will throw up this little navigation button at the bottom. I think it would be good to have this enabled by default if you're on the home screen, and then as soon as you navigate away from the home screen, then it'll disappear. Just because I was mashing buttons for a moment just to kind of figure out how do I get to the games folders. So here we are. So I've re-enabled that glass effect. So when I hover over, you get this nice little glassy looking border. So there's still no FB Neo icon. However, all my games are there. So we've got my Game Boy. So I've not had to scrape anything because I already scraped these on ESDE. So it's really nice to not have to spend hours and hours doing that over and over again. So nothing for Genesis either. I believe it's because it might be treated as Mega Drive in iisu. So I think it would be good for those theme developers out there or people working on iisu files, just duplicate your Genesis or Mega Drive one and call it Genesis or Mega Drive, just so it captures both. So this is the light mode. If I switch over to the dark mode as well, we'll do dark. It still does have the light mode icons. There are some really nice looking dark mode icons, but I believe you still have to put them in manually, which is a bit of a shame because they are really nice looking. So it'd be nice if they came as standard. I imagine they will further down the line. But like I said, we're still in alpha. The guys have been quiet for a month, which sometimes I prefer because I think that it's a bit of a double-edged sword with a lot of these front-end developments and developers is when you're very active on something like Discord, there's a habit of having your initial vision kind of tainted when every little update comes under a lot of scrutiny from users. Whereas for me, I think it's better to do less frequent updates, but more substantial ones, unless there's some absolutely game-breaking bugs or fixes that you need to implement ASAP. So we've also got this little jump back in feature, which I quite like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to boot up what was I playing before? It was some WarioWare. Although I won't have my saves on this, so we'll just boot it up anyway. Still need to set up my Odin. There will be some guides for the Odin 3 coming shortly. But I've been getting so many questions and there's so much hype around the Thor that it's been kind of taken up all my time. So one thing to notice as well, as soon as I stop and hover over, you get this little, I think they call them tooltips, which I don't know if that's the terminology I'd have used, but you get a lovely little pop-up logo. I think for me, I don't know if it's customizable. It'd be better to have, I think, the name of the game in quite readable writing, because with the logo, if you've not already immediately identified something by the box art, the logo probably isn't going to give you much. So title image for tooltips. So if I untick this, tooltip for consoles and categories, tooltip for one row. So there's absolutely tons in here. Oh, so it does. Yeah, so you can do that. Although I didn't see a way to customize the size of the fonts. So that's probably something to consider because, as you can see, there's a bit of truncation happening. Not too bad. It also seems to, I don't know if it's because they're not mapped, but it's pulled through the raw ROM file rather than the. No, that might be because I've not mapped them properly. That's probably my fault. So there's also different views for this. So if we go to our appearance again, and is it in our single screen view? So there's all sorts of options in here for the single screen. You can force the old layout if you want to. What does that actually do? Oh yeah, so you get the tooltip at the top there, which it does kind of eat into the real estate of the screen. So I don't believe it's strictly necessary. I think it's good that it is obvious, and also you lose the functionality of having your active Discord friends and the clock. So if we go to our games folder, they have added something which I believe is specifically for the single screen mode or single screen devices, because I didn't see this when I was trying it out on the Thor before. So what I'm going to do is press our start button and go down to general layout options. And then if we scroll down, obviously you've got these different layouts here for consoles. So you can change it to this XMB layout. So I haven't seen this. So this will be new for me as well. So I'm going to back out. And there we go. We get this very lovely cross media bar inspired. Not an exact copy, but does look good. If you've used the iisu interpreted theme on ESDE, then this is basically what they've done first. So I wonder if there's a way to, can I have the games as a grid? So I can adjust the size of the icons. So I don't know if I'm missing something with there, but you get this nice vertical carousel. Personally, I like, with the iisu interpreted, I like having my consoles in this vertical carousel. However, when you go over to the actual game list, you get a nice grid. I always prefer a grid because you can see more than once. So if I was wanted to play WarioWare, then it'd be a bit annoying to go to the Game Boy Advance and then have to, and it doesn't have carryover either. So you can't go to the top, press up, and it'll take you to the bottom. You have to go all the way down, which, if you're like me and you're a bit of a game hoarder, then this is going to take you a good long while. A really good long while. So let's boot up some Simpsons Road Rage. So I've not logged into RetroAchievements yet, or it's not finished the onboarding task yet, should I say. So I'm just going to back out of this. Not actually going to play the game. Just wanted to boot it up because we also have, if we go back to our homepage, we have this lovely little jump back in feature, which I really, really like. I like that it has the little screenshots and you have this little quick shortcut. I think a lot of front ends are kind of lacking a feature like that. Even my beloved, it has recents, but it doesn't have it on the homepage. So I believe I will just check my list of wait, that's my Steam account. I will check my list of updates and I'll see if I've just covered everything for the single screen. I believe I have. Obviously, there's a ton of bug fixes in here with regards to navigation. The one thing I still have found which is missing, which I'd urge the developers, I know they've commented on some of my videos before, uh, please make this a priority if it's not already been suggested. I'll make sure I pop it in the Discord as well. When you update a console, so for example, if I decide that for my PSP, for example, if I want to change the PSP emulator, if I go to console settings, then I edit those console settings, I don't want to use the RetroArch emulator, I want to use the standalone PSP. So most users intuitively will go, I've changed it, so I'll back out, that should be set. However, if I go in and go back to it, it hasn't saved those changes. In order to save the changes, I have to go back, go to summary, and then press update console, which now I know how to do it is fine, but it's not intuitive. And I have a lot of comments on my video saying, "Oh, I've changed the emulators, and then when I've come out, it's not done it." And I tell people it's because you have to do it this way. So for my sanity and the sanity of many users out there who want to use iisu and a plea to developers, please include that in your next update. So I've covered pretty much everything for the single screen. So what I'm going to do is flip over to my Thor and I'll just show you a little bit of the dual screen. There isn't too much to show, but we'll quickly cover it. Okay, here we are. Here is my Thor. So this has my achievements already hashed and listed, so it wasn't having to do all the scraping that it was on the Thor. So I've been playing some WarioWare. So as you can see immediately already, the top left, my one Discord friend who's currently online, and I think probably I have about 5 friends on Discord anyway. If I press my left trigger, I can see my friends that are online. Now, the friend I have online, shout out, this is the Swest, and he is actually the creator of Thor CPY, which I'm using to capture the device. So, a good dude. So the right trigger, like I said before, doesn't do anything yet, even though it has a little button hint there. But I have found that I do quite like these little pop-ups here, these tooltips for the consoles. And then we have our lovely little achievements menu, which I believe has had some slight redesign, nothing too much. I do think possibly, if I had to be really nitpicky, the frosted glass look, which seems to be everywhere at the moment, especially if you're an iPhone user, it's a little bit too translucent. I don't know if that's something I can adjust on here. It could well be. I'm not someone who delves deep into themes, so if I change the scrim opacity, does that do it as well, or is that just for... So that's just for the hero image on the background. So like I said, I'm not someone who spends hours customizing themes. I tinker with metadata and getting games to run and trialing stuff like that. I know some people out there absolutely love it, but for me, I like things being intuitive first, and then if you want to delve deep, you can. So we can see here, if you need to change the metadata folder, you can just do it through this data tab, and then you can sign into your scrapers through there. I covered all this in other videos. They've still not fixed that typo on aggressive scraping. They've been busy doing other stuff. I also noticed these updates, so you can now update from inside the app itself. I believe this was a feature that came out with the last alpha. And these JSON emulators, when I updated these, nothing happened. So I believe this is something still to come. And then I'm not really sure what the iisu starter pack is, because when I try and update it, I just get an error. So I'm assuming this is a little teaser of things to come. And for our integrations, there you can log into your Discord. Then you can have it auto connect. You can enable rich presence as well. So I know a lot of people request rich presence. For those of you not sure what rich presence is, it will basically show on your Discord status the game you're currently playing, what you're currently doing, that kind of thing. So if you're someone who doesn't like to keep secrets, then you can enable rich presence, some login, and you can manage it there. So here we go. So we can customize it as well, which I quite like because I think this is the first time I've seen that level of granular control over rich presence. So being able to show the you don't need to see the category, you can go away. We're showing the app or the ROM's quite good, unless it's an app which you'd rather not have people see. So that was just a quick look at the latest alpha for iisu. It only came out last night, my time. So if you're interested and you want to keep supporting those developers, sign up to their Ko-fi. That will add you to their Discord and it'll give you access to these updates. So they don't come quite as thick and fast as a lot of other front ends out there. However, I do think that some of the features in here have been quite significant, especially if you're someone who's a Retroid user or an Odin user, and you are eagerly awaiting the iisu to be more readily available for your device, then I think this is probably a good one to jump into. Not sure if it's a full replacement yet. It's not something I use as a daily driver. Currently, the only front end I use as my daily driver is ESDE, but that's mainly due to the fact that all the front ends I cover, or most of the front ends I cover, are still in very early development stages. So there are a ton of bugs and things like that. As always, if you like this video, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.